This is a photograph of my great-grandfather, James Curran. A Kildare man, James was born in 1866 in Kilgowan. During his life, he went to great lengths to support his family. He had numerous jobs, some of which he migrated for. James was also in World War I. My mother's cousin told me that James had been in France in World War I. We obtained this photo from another cousin, and upon obtaining this photo, I began to search for his World War I service records. I checked Ancestry, Find My Past, and I even did a search on the Discovery database on the National Archives website. I couldn't find anything. I contacted the National Archives, and they emailed me back saying that any First World War records that had been digitized were already on Find My Past and Ancestry. My search continued for about 4 years, until I discovered the Great War Forum. I posted in the Great War Forum, and somebody responded supplying me with 2 files that I could access at the National Archives in person. With this information in hand, I decided to book a flight from Dublin to London. It was a risk, though. Many of the records from World War I were damaged during the London Blitz during World War II. Many of the records that survived were in a burnt condition. I set out for London from Dublin, where I had been visiting relatives. I settled into my hotel, and the next morning I travelled through West London to the National Archives at Kew. Even though I had arrived, I still felt hopeless. I thought, I'm never going to find these records. I went through with the application process and obtained my reader's card. I went to the reading room and ordered up the files that had been supplied to me by the individual in the Great War Forum. One of the rules of this reading room is you can't take the files apart. Well, while I was there was a man doing just that, and he was actually removed. I sat waiting for the 2 files to come up, and my mind wandered. I thought, this is a long way to travel to find nothing. But then I recalled the lengths that James went to in his life to support his family, how he migrated to Linlithgow and found work as a shale miner. I had previously discovered documents that described burns James had sustained. I presume that those burns occurred when he was working as a shale miner. I was informed my files were ready. I brought the records to my desk and sat down and opened the first file and leafed through it. My heart dropped with disappointment when I came across the file. It was the wrong James. I closed the folder and put it aside. I picked up the second folder and opened it and leafed through it as I had the first folder. And there it was. My great-grandfather's World War I service records. I quickly printed off his records, traveled back through West London to my hotel, and on to Heathrow, where I boarded a flight back to Dublin. I eventually returned to Canada. In the coming months, I would explore James's records and learn a lot about him. James enlisted with the Royal Marine Labour Corps on the 7th of August 1918. From Dublin, James was sent to Deal, Kent, and from Deal he was sent to Rouen, where he was stationed. While many young teenagers represented themselves as older on their enlistment papers, James represented himself as younger. James's character is referred to as being very good multiple times on his service records. It is said that James lost a leg due to an injury on a boat or at a dock. Before returning to Dublin, James spent time in hospital in both Rouen and in Cheltenham before returning to Dublin. When James originally enlisted in the war, Ireland was on the heels of the conscription crisis. And when he returned home to Dublin afterwards, he returned to the War of Independence, otherwise known as the Black and Tan War. I will remember James Curran, his very good character, and his sacrifice. Thank you for watching. I will leave links in the information below to find my past, ancestry, the Great War Forum, and the National Archives.